Höhepunkt, zweiter Teil. Der Senckenberg-Preis für Naturforschung, der geht ja dieses Jahr an Alexandre Antonelli, was mich persönlich auch sehr freut. Wer ist dieser Alexandre eigentlich? Er ist ein Kämpfer für die Biodiversität, das kann man wirklich sagen. Und er identifiziert Hotspots, also Orte, an denen die Biodiversität besonders hoch ist. Das tut er zum Beispiel im Wald der Superlative. Und dieser Wald, das ist der mit Abstand das größte noch zusammenhängende Tropenwaldgebiet der Welt.
Und umfasst mit 3,5 Millionen Quadratkilometern mehr als die Hälfte der tropischen Regenwälder.
17% des an Land vorkommenden Kohlenstoffs sind in seinen Bäumen und Böden gespeichert.
Das entspricht rund 150 bis 200 Gigatonnen Kohlenstoff.
Mit seinem eigenen Wasserkreislauf wirkt er wie eine riesige Wärme- und Wasserpumpe.
Nirgends ist die Zahl der Tier- und Pflanzenarten höher.
2,5 Millionen Insektenarten, Zehntausende Pflanzen- und Tierarten.
Darunter über 5.500 Wirbeltier, über 1.300 Vogelarten
und über 16.000 verschiedene Baumarten.
Über 2 Milliarden Tonnen CO2 werden jährlich verarbeitet.
Und ein Fünftel des weltweit verfügbaren Sauerstoffs erzeugt, weswegen er als Lunge der Erde bezeichnet wird.
Aber durch Waldbrand und Rodung ist dieser wichtigste Hotspot der Artenvielfalt akut bedroht.
Und
Professor Dr. Alexandre Antonelli gilt als einer der führenden Biodiversitätsforscher weltweit. Im Südosten Brasiliens aufgewachsen, wurde seine Leidenschaft für die Natur in diesen überaus artenreichen Regenwäldern geweckt. Er sammelte Insekten, Samen, Früchte und Blätter und suchte oft vergeblich nach den Namen seiner Funde. Dieses frühe Interesse an der unbekannten Welt der Pflanzen und Tiere hat ihn zum Studium der Biologie geführt und auf seiner beruflichen Laufbahn immer begleitet. Antonelli promovierte über die Evolution der Biodiversität in den südamerikanischen Tropen und startete 2010 als wissenschaftlicher Kurator am Botanischen Garten von Göteborg. Gleichzeitig begann er seine eigene interdisziplinäre Forschungsgruppe, das Antonelli Lab, aufzubauen. In seiner Arbeit stellt er die großen Fragen über den Ursprung und die Entwicklung ganzer Ökosysteme und darüber, wie sich die Biodiversität im Laufe von Zeit und Raum verändert. Eine Forschungsrichtung, die mit dem Begriff Biogeographie beschrieben werden kann. Mit 36 Jahren zum Professor ernannt, gründete er 2017 das Göteborg-Zentrum für globale Biodiversität. 2019 wurde er zum wissenschaftlichen Direktor der Royal Botanic Gardens in Kew, London berufen, die mit mehr als 2,4 Milliarden Samen von etwa 40.000 Arten eines der größten Samenarchive der Welt beherbergen. Hier untersucht Antonelli mit mehr als 300 Mitarbeitenden Verbreitung, Evolution, Bedrohung und nachhaltige Nutzung von Arten sowie den Einfluss des Klimawandels zunehmend auch mit Hilfe von künstlicher Intelligenz.
So this is a very important region for me. Most of my fieldwork is actually here in Latin America.
Hier in den südamerikanischen Tropen ist der Rückgang von Tier- und Pflanzenarten besonders drastisch, was die genetische und biologische Vielfalt auf unserem Planeten besonders bedroht. Neue Schätzungen gehen davon aus, dass 2/5 der Pflanzen weltweit vom Aussterben bedroht sind. Auf der Kippe stehen damit auch ungehobene Schätze an Wissen für uns Menschen, zum Beispiel für Ernährung oder Medikamente der Zukunft.
I want people to realize that biodiversity is just as important as climate change, if not more. I want people to engage themselves in the protection of biodiversity for the future of our planet.
Zusammen mit vielen anderen Forschenden fordert Antonelli daher eine zügige Steigerung der Investitionen in die Erhaltung der Artenvielfalt, vor allem durch eine massive Ausweitung von Schutzgebieten an Land und in den Ozeanen. Um die Biodiversität auf unserem Planeten in einer sich schnell verändernden Welt mit einem begrenzten Budget effizient zu schützen, haben Antonelli und andere Forschende auf Basis von neuen Technologien und künstlicher Intelligenz ein Programm für die Identifizierung und Priorisierung von Schutzgebieten, sogenannter Hotspots, entwickelt. Diese gilt es besonders zu schützen, in unser aller Interesse. Neben seiner Forschung hat Antonelli zahlreiche Auszeichnungen erhalten. Ihm zu Ehren wurden 2 Pflanzen benannt. Weitere hat er entdeckt und selbst benannt. Im Juli erscheint sein Buch The Hidden Universe, wo er Lesende in das Reich der Biodiversität entführt. Sein Leitsatz ist dabei immer: Meine Leidenschaft ist Natur und meine Mission ist, den Verlust der Biodiversität zu stoppen. Alexandre Antonelli erhält den Senckenberg-Preis für Naturforschung für seine herausragende wissenschaftliche und kreative Leistung in der Evolutionsbiologie und Biogeographie.
Und die Laudatio hält niemand geringerer als unser Forschungsdirektor von der Senckenberg-Gesellschaft. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Director for Research, Andreas Mulch.
Thank you, everyone. You mind if I start off with a question? Who of you has ever been in love? Okay, mate, that's a little personal. Did it feel like the right thing to do? I mean, at least at the time. Who? Yeah, I see some hands. I guess we all agree that falling in love, if you think about it, is a rather complex process, right? Many things need to work out. Character, smell, movement, appearance, the first moment. And then there's this whole set of biochemistry that's happening in your body, in your brain, and all these things. They're super complicated. This is very, very difficult science. I would not be able to do any of that. But every day, billions of people manage to be in love. So somehow we manage to go from a very complicated theory to doing something every day. So our relationship with nature works, to my liking, in the same way. Our planet is a well-balanced, is a sophisticated system. Everything is connected. So there's a process that powers volcanoes and then earthquakes. There are others that make the air breathable. This relates to the oceans and makes the oceans a place where, you know, we can look at a paradise of animals and plants, and then we have the forests, mountains, meadows, and we just marvel and wonder about the beauty of nature. But this is complicated and endangered by the collective action of one species. I mean, we don't necessarily mean bad, at least not all of the time, right? Some strive for a life out of poverty. Others think about their lifestyle, which has been established a while ago, and we just want to keep that lifestyle. And these are all really good reasons to keep doing what we're doing. But we humans have become such a powerful force on the planet that our actions matter. What we do matters, and it matters a lot. Sometimes I'm kind of overwhelmed by this feeling, and we see all these obvious difficulties that we're having in our relationship with the planet, in our relationship with nature. The planet changes rapidly and at a scale and magnitude that, you know, we haven't experienced as humans so far. And should we give up? I mean, well, no. we haven't given up on this complicated thing called love either. So, you know, we shouldn't be afraid. We shouldn't be afraid of fixing our relationship to nature. And as a scientist myself, I'm extremely comforted, and it's comforting to know that there are experts, you know, experts for a job. And here is the job to fix my relationship to nature. And I'm very, very honored and happy to have an expert here with us tonight. Alex, great pleasure to have you with us. Alex Antonelli is a world-renowned botanist, or better, an Earth system understanding scientist with a deep passion for the role of plants on this planet. We've heard he's a professor, he's a director of science. For me, he's a showcase role model. And when we talked prior to this event, and when I talked to him as colleague in the past, what impressed me most were three things. When you see Alex, it's solving scientific questions, and you see this incredibly sympathetic and curious, apologies, slightly nerdy scientist. At the same time, there's this very, very determined discussion leader able to embrace the unknown and put things together that no one has seen as one collective item before. And then there is a bold and visionary person, an explorer who goes all in once determination is clear, once it is clear this is the way to go. He has set out to understand and protect biodiversity for the future of all life on Earth, for the future of all life on Earth, including us. I think this is a brilliant example how we pair responsibility with the mindset of a scientist, and then if you go to him and ask him, he will just tell you, oh, you know what, Andreas, I'm just a scientist in the end, and don't we all just want to understand how things work? In closing, I would like to come back to love. So, we're all experts in it now. It's extremely complicated, and yet billions of people manage to fall in love and to do the right thing every day. Why? Because once you make just a few important, aspects clear, don't take yourself too important, listen, respond carefully, add a little bit of passion, be honest, trust each other. We know there's ingredients that will make the whole thing work out. And what we can learn from such fine human beings as Alex is that the same holds true for our relationship with nature. To fix this relationship as a society, we don't need to go into all the details that worry us scientists all the time. We don't need to understand every little bit, every detail. There's a few things that help us to get all the way. We don't need to get all the way to the end of the equation. And some of these things are simple. Don't overuse, don't overspend. It's the planet that provides everything for our living. Reduce the amount of unnecessary things in our life. We don't need them. They don't make us happy anyways. Reuse and recycle wisely at very, very large scales. This is the challenge for the future. And third, empower the young generation. They will have a lot of thinking ahead of them, but they have the creativity to find the solutions for our future. And this is where I think a lot of the opportunities lie. And last, we're making a major mistake by looking at nature as our checking account. It's the money that you can take out of this and just, we heard the lemon example earlier today, just squeeze out of it whatever is possible. It's ridiculously wrong. It's the savings. These are our global savings, and we should just make sure that these savings get bigger and bigger and bigger over time, because this is where safety comes from, and this is the safety net that we're all waiting for. So nature's services are our collective treasure, and we should treat them as such. Alex, it's an enormous pleasure and an honor to have you here tonight. I'm really appreciating your passion, your curiosity, your creativity, and therefore it's very well deserved that you are the recipient of the Senckenberg Research Award of 2022 for your admirable achievements in serving the planet's well-being, and therefore ultimately our well-being. Alex.
and gentlemen, please welcome the Senckenberg Awardee 2022 for Outstanding Science, Alexandre Antonelli. Alexandre, congrats. Alexandre, I have a microphone for you.
Well, I was only about 5 years old, about this tall, when I saw a blue morpho butterfly for the first time. It was about this big, and it flew straight towards me, turned right, and then disappeared really quickly. And I was paralyzed. How could something so beautiful exist? And in the same way as a duckling gets imprinted on the first animal they see when they are born, so did I become in love with the nature of my home country, Brazil. And that experience was in the Atlantic forest, an extremely diverse biome that covered all of eastern tropical South America for millions of years. But today, there are only 8% left in highly fragmented pockets. And last year, deforestation rates shown by satellite images have increased by 125%. Our societies are facing really difficult challenges today. The coronavirus, the rise of living costs, the war in Ukraine. So I fully understand that all of our attention, our public resources, go into tackling those challenges. But in the long term, I strongly believe that the loss of nature and its biodiversity is the biggest challenge we all face on this planet. Because a species that disappears never comes back. Just look around yourselves. Well, I'm kind of happy that that guy doesn't come back. But for most of the others, I think that'll be nice to have them back. Anyway, there is hope in this narrow window of time. And I think that science can really provide solutions to some of those biggest challenges we're facing today. And biodiversity science can really identify nature-based solutions to feed the world's growing population, to mitigate climate change, and to improve the life of each one of us, including the poorest. To live in harmony with nature, we've heard it today, we need to protect what's left and restore what we've degraded. But we cannot protect what we don't understand. And this is why the research done here at Senckenberg on the climate, biodiversity, and earth systems is so vital and timely. And together with scientists around the world, including us at the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew, the Gothenburg Global Biodiversity Center, we are on a joint mission to understand, protect, restore, and sustainably use our natural world. I think in the same way that science is taking us out of this pandemic, we believe that science is going to help us to fix our planet. And now, I really want to stand on the shoulders of my new friend, Chris Hopkins, and do what she did for Patagonia in the Atlantic forest of Brazil. please help me, so that those beautiful butterflies can continue to fly towards young children in Brazil and amaze them for all generations to come. Ich fühle mich sehr geehrt und danke Ihnen vielmals für diese fantastische Anerkennung.
Alexandre, stay with us for another minute, please. Congrats again.
Thank you.
Andreas, I have a question, because I'm confronted with that question very often. In the tradition of science, there was a very sharp line between science and activism. And this seems to me as if this line is eroding away. Listening to you is listening to a fine scientist, but as well to an activist. Do you think it's a problem for science to be involved into activism and political work so deeply?
No.
Okay, wonderful. Because I was talking to a lot of scientists over the last years, and I think it's very important that the scientists, they have to get out of their caves and speak openly.
I fully agree. So we don't live in a bubble. We should not remain in this ivory tower where we do the great research we think we're doing. We publish scientific papers, and then we move on to the next one without telling people what we've done, what we found, and what it matters. So I think that, you know, in a sense, we do have to become more activists. I have joined Extinction Rebellion on some Mars, and I think as long as we are based on evidence rather than opinion, we as scientists, we must take a much more prominent role in the scientific debate. So I think that what discerns us perhaps sometimes from activists is that we really know the systems, and we, of any people, we think that we know the answers to some of those biggest questions when it comes to protection of nature. So why shouldn't we talk to people and try to fix it? So I do believe that in my own career and trajectory, I've gone from just being this nerdy person, just sitting and trying to find new insights that no one else had found, and became really glad when I found something that people hadn't thought about, to actually, you know, trying to tell my family and trying to convince other people, or not convince, but perhaps talk to other people about the relevance of the science we're doing. It doesn't mean that everything we do in science is going to be applicable or useful the next day, because knowledge is power, and knowledge is what we need in society, because we've seen now just with the pandemic, as I mentioned before, without science, we wouldn't have a vaccine. Without science, we would be here talking on a Zoom meeting. And, you know, it's not really the same thing. And we know that science really can help provide those solutions. Sometimes it's a zigzag way, it's not straightforward, but I think that we have to rely on science because that's our best and most powerful tool to tackle those big problems.
Yes, wonderful. So, Andreas, we need more braveness in the science community to stand up straight and talk frankly.
I think there's two elements to this. I mean, we've all been in situations where our knowledge was at an end and we needed to rely on someone else's knowledge. That could be changing the battery in the car, that could be, you know, being sick, or I don't know what. I mean, something where an expert comes in. And what I would really encourage all of us to do in all these fields that we touch upon, but where we're not experts, I think trusting into proven results, trusting in curated knowledge makes life so much easier, because you give away some of that responsibility. I mean, imagine you're in a hospital, right? You're not questioning and having the doctor fill out a lot of forms and just, you know, figure out whether this is a good doctor or a bad doctor. You just want someone to help you. And at the same time, we as scientists need to make sure that whatever we can deliver gets boxed up in a way such that society can use this and come to useful solutions. The solutions must come from the society. The options need to come from science.
And It's not in our program, but because you told us that you found a new friend here, Chris Tompkins, I think it would be a nice idea to have Chris with us again here on stage, and to see the 2 awardees of this year here on stage. Chris, would you mind joining us again? She has to sneak out the crowd over there.
But she's my new idol, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
and here she comes.
Inspirational.
And here she comes again, Chris Tompkins, ladies and gentlemen.
Christoph.
If you want to do a photo with your mobile, this would be the moment with the 2 awardees. Here they go.